Well, it's nice to see everyone here. We're very excited to actually have all of the leaders here from different partners across AWS. So we're going to be talking about how customers have actually come to us saying that the way people have been consuming video has really changed over the past few years. So just to raise your hands, how many people first thing this morning, did you watch video from your phone? Raise your hands if you did. Yeah. And if you looked at someone maybe 2 decades ago, they would never have thought that phones would be the primary way in which you're viewing video content. And so what we're talking about today is actually how products like Elemental Inference has started to change and help a lot of our partners and our customers be able to adapt to that kind of use case. So first, I want each of the folks here to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Charlie. I lead our commercial team at Grabyo. I've been with the business for about 5 or 6 years now. Really excited to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Christine Chalk. I head up product and customer success at Tagboard. I've been there for almost a decade now and excited to be up here with such awesome company.
Hi, I'm the co-founder and CTO of ScorePlay. So media infrastructure made for sports. I'm super excited to be here and talk AI.
Awesome. So one of the first things that I wanted to mention is we launched Elemental Inference about a month and a half ago. This is a new Elemental product that takes live video input and provides real-time metadata as a result. And wanted to talk and get feedback from each of our partners here. So when you decided to integrate inference into your product, what was the moment that convinced you this was the right approach? And tell me a little bit about some of the impact that it had to your customers. Let's start with Xavier.
Yeah. What convinced us to go with this product? So 2 things first. One, I love saying that now with AI, the concept of a feature is becoming a commodity. And that was the perfect proof because we've had customers for 3 years. They've been banging at our doors. Please do automated 9x16. Or it's not our business. It's not what we do. That's a complex feature. We can't do it. And now overnight we had the opportunity to do it. And the second exciting thing was the fact that it was live. I think with AI now, especially in the media industry, there's a lot of, it works great for post-production because you need the assets, then you need to run the AI and there we could have it live. And the third thing is we could get Claude to just build the integration, at least for POC. But when it comes to AI, it's always blurry if when we say production, it's POC or actual production. So we ran that, worked great. And then maybe a couple of weeks, we got to fully ingrained into the product. So something that would have taken us 18 months. If we'd even cracked it, we brought it down to 2 weeks. So super exciting.
That's amazing. And what about you, Charlie? How has Grabyo started to look at inference?
So I think going back to the other question about kind of the question of when. Me being a commercial guy, as soon as I hear about it, I'm very excited about it straight away for the same reason as Zav. All of our customers have been talking about how you can deploy AI, whether it's for a live streaming basis, which is one half of what we do, or whether it's clipping and highlights and other sort of short form content where I guess AI tracking has been around here for a while, but then having the backing of AWS, that's really helped us. So it's been a really important part of our evolution over the last few years. And I think from a commercial point of view, the moment it was available to even consider, we were saying yes. And our CTO didn't need to take too much convincing.
That's great news. And Christine, can you tell us a little bit about how Tagboard has started to look at this?
Yeah. So I think we sit in a little bit of a different role in the ecosystem. Your Grabyo is doing the reframing of the content. And on our end, it was we're the graphics layer, right? Tagboard is a cloud-based graphics engine, and we're adding the graphic pieces that layer on top of the video that Grabyo and Elemental are doing the heavy lifting to reframe into a vertical format. And so for us, it's adding the full screens, the lower thirds, the interactive, the rich data layers on there that say this piece of content feels native to the destination where it is going. And so for us, the moment was when we realized that reformatting something into vertical is not just a format problem to solve. It's a storytelling challenge to solve. And that's where the graphic pieces can really start to layer in, and we can make sure that something feels native. Because that's the key piece in order to, if you turn a video on its side, it won't land with your viewers. And so for us, we said, how can we make sure it feels native to the destination so we can not only serve something to the audience, we can actually keep them around.
Thank you. I want to talk a little bit about the customers that you have and how this has impacted them since you've started to use inference. Can you tell me a little bit about how has this kind of helped your customers, whether it's reaching new audiences, saving them on production time, or is it about unlocking revenue that they couldn't access before? We'll start with you, Charlie.
Yeah, I think we've got customers across all sort of range of spectrums, whether it's sport, news and entertainment. And I think one of the things we've seen straight off the bat with the inference work we've done in the last few months is it's not just unique to a particular category. So whilst we've looked at soccer, given we're talking about America here, and then football and baseball and even snowboarding and skateboarding and things, there are different ways to tell that story, back to what Christine was talking about. But you've got to make sure that the way that you frame the content, the way that sort of the inference AI is positioning the center crop and tracking the field, telling the story when there's multiple subjects maybe on screen at the same time, or at least there would be if it was a 16:9 shot, capturing that to tell the story of the sport, or indeed if it's a news broadcast and you've got multiple presenters on screen, or if it's a music broadcast and you've got multiple sort of artists, musicians, kind of the drummer, the guitarist, all on screen. That's been really important to make sure that the framing of that with the AI, which has been really impressive from AWS, making sure that does that effectively. And then we're combining that with the graphics and other such things. But I think it always comes back to the customer. What are the stories they're trying to tell? What do the audience from that customer want to expect? And we're so used to them, I guess in our world, seeing 16:9 content being served up almost lazily at times in a 9:16 format. And we're crying out and going, there's so much more you can do with this. There's more graphics. There's more sort of camera feeds you might be able to bring in. And now we can actually really fill that full screen and make sure it's a much more dynamic production for what people want to see.
That's a really good point. Being able to take those multiple camera sources to create more personalized experiences so that you're not doing just the lowest common denominator.
And with us, we've got that choice because inference we can either take an existing production. So it's already mixed. There might be 20 cameras, let's say someone's mixing that for a TV broadcast, and inference will just work out exactly where the scene changes are happening from a vertical point of view to make sure the right sort of subject matter is always in shot. So we can do it that way, or we can take the ISOs and feed inference with the ISOs. And therefore you've then got even more control to go, right, I've got 20 ISOs here. Which one am I going to choose for any given shot? And they're already tracked in a vertical format. You haven't filmed it natively in 9:16, but you've now got that 9:16 native choice from an ISO perspective in our vision mixer. So yeah, it's been fantastic.
That's great. And so in that storytelling perspective, creating those more personalized experience, taking that content, adapting it for different kinds of cohorts. Can you tell me a little bit, Christine, how Tagboard is doing that?
Yeah, I think there's kind of, it breaks down into two impact areas, right? One is the impact it has on the audience, and one is the impact it has on the production team itself. So the example that you just gave was great of what if I could break out these ISOs? What if then on top of that, we could automate the stats for that specific player that you're following in real time without needing a producer to click the buttons and to do that and generate these really unique pieces of content. You know, we actually worked together with Grabyo and AWS on a case study with the Phoenix Am, which is a longstanding skateboarding event. And they said, we're going to do a native vertical stream. So instead of the lazy thought, it was, this is going to be a first in class production that is built for vertical. So we built out a custom graphics package that hit that audience, right? Because it's different content hierarchy. It's different interactivity moments. It's a different demographic depending on where you're going. And we saw that the vertical TikTok stream actually had 3 times the peak live concurrent viewers compared to the horizontal stream. And so this pocket of viewers was always there, and no one had just ever shown up for them in the right way. And so when you showed up with content that spoke to them, they stayed. And so for the audience, you can imagine how that translates into immediate revenue and monetization opportunities, advertising opportunities. But that's where it ties to the second impact area. If you can't do that without doubling and blowing up your production and your operational complexity, it's not going to be a win. So what this allows with, the amazing technology is it can scale, and it can scale in a way that you can have one producer who is clicking a button and sending a bespoke experience to Instagram Live versus TikTok versus YouTube versus your linear horizontal stream and have it feel like that was tailored to that audience. And so I think those are twofold, but they really fold in together. You really can't have one impact area without the other.
That's a great example. So tell me a little bit about how, not doubling your production, but being able to actually produce a lot more content for different audience sets. How has that changed for you, Xav?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to speed. And if there's a lot of broadcasters here, if we take a look at how it's usually done in the broadcast world, you'll ingest the feeds and then there'll be a logger clipping in and out, and then they'll give a sequence, and then they'll go into an editor, and that editor will do the last mile of 9:16 reframing in like Adobe Premiere. Then it'll flow into some sort of a MAM system, and then from there it'll get published somewhere. What if now we're saying, let's still accept that there's the editorial aspect of finding the best moments. Maybe not for a long time, but let's say that that's still for now, like a human aspect of finding, that the most amazing piece, within a sequence of video. But now I put my in and out, and then that's it. And I trust the system that if that flows into my fan app, I can just let it do that by itself. And then we've gone from, 5 steps to just an editorial capacity, and then it flows right into production. So I think that's where we've really seen now that audience capture, because obviously if you look at the value of media with live, like it goes down very quickly. And especially if you're a right holder, you're like, well, obviously I want to be the first to capture that audience. I don't want someone else like pulling my SRT feed and they can get this content out faster than myself. So for us, that's been the core focus. Is how do you get that content out as fast as possible? And you don't care if it's broadcast, if it's digital, if it's even photo tomorrow. You just make sure that if it goes to the right pipeline, then you can trust the system.
That's great. So ScorePlay is really built around helping sports organizations and rights owners actually distribute their content directly. Can you tell us a little bit about how something like Inference has been able to help the sports rights holders actually be able to own that more and be able to produce those vertical highlights for the TikToks and the Instagram Reels of the world?
Yeah. So yeah, like you mentioned, so what we've built at ScorePlay is we try to be the sort of infrastructure layer for sports. Meaning we have 3 products. One is, the ingest capacity. So, it could be live, it could be VOD, it could be archive, it could be photography. So we ingest all of that. Then we have an archive platform, a tagging and classification platform, but all that is useless if you don't have the distribution platform. And so that's what we've been, working on. And what I love is that the difficulty when you build the infra layer, is that then every single feature is like, do I build it myself or do I wait for someone else to build it? And here we had the opportunity of, before we would do, sort of really seamless 16:9 distribution. And the idea is that how do you go from a live feed to a selection of clips? And that problem, we've seen done in the past and, it's becoming, sort of a commodity. But that's good enough for the old traditional systems, essentially getting that out on TV, which for right holders has always been, a main job. But now that we're wanting to capture all these, mobile, audiences, you need that last element. And that's the last element that, wasn't present in the industry because no one had done that job and no one had, sort of tied the digital and broadcast worlds together. And now we can go tell them, okay, you're a right holder. You have this broadcast ingest. Within a few clips, you have social distribution capacity. Before that would have been completely independent systems. And now we can unlock that, with a simple light touch of inference.
That's excellent. So Grabyo has built its platform around cloud native live production and has integrated clipping and social distribution. Tell us a little bit about how you think that Inference has changed the workflow for your customers.
Yeah, I think it's changed it both on a economical point of view, but also from an operational side too. So if I take a live production environment as an example, we were seeing broadcasters and rights holders, particularly in Europe, spending tens of thousands of dollars or euros creating a vertical setup for a production, which was happening in parallel to the 16:9 sort of linear broadcast going on. And it's it's not sustainable that way. Economically, people can't afford to be deploying multiple teams, really to film the same match. So having that AI come in and create that natively vertical perspective from each of the camera ISOs, or whether it's the mixed feed, and then allowing us through the likes of Tagboard and others to really tell that story in a very vertical focused way alongside a parallel production that's going 16:9. That's been a game changer for us. And we've seen that so much just in the last 2 or 3 months alone since really sort of introducing this to customers together with you at AWS. So that's been really exciting. I think the other thing about having control through something like Grabyo and the storytelling through other products like Tagboard, that editorial control where you can really take the source material and then really understand what graphics are going on screen. When am I bringing in a picture-in-picture effect? So maybe the 16:9 broadcast, that's focused on all the cameras around a football pitch. But actually for the sort of TikTok audience, we need to bring in some influencers and other type of characters. So you're then bringing picture-in-picture effects that's really unique to that vertical feed, combining it at times with a full screen vertical outlook to then having an influencer on screen at the bottom and having that choice to really tell the story in a way that the audience on that particular platform is used to being told, used to being presented to. That then makes sure that people are sticking around more, and then you get the types of results that the Phoenix Am were getting, where it's triple the audience on TikTok versus kind of that 16:9 view on YouTube.
Absolutely. You feel a stronger attachment to your teams and the athletes in addition to the game itself.
And the audience feel it's been made for them. That's the key thing. If the audience feel like they're being treated in the way that they're understood, they know what the content needs to look like, they're going to come back for more. That's the key thing.
Exactly. So, Christine, tell me a little bit. Tagboard has been long at the intersection of live production and real-time storytelling. And storytelling is what we've been talking about, and making sure that we personalize the content for the audience, the customer's audience. How do you think the broadcast and the live events team has changed with the help of Inference?
Yeah, I think that historically, like you've mentioned, when we were working with producers, they had to make a choice. Do we want to put our resources and our effort and our time into the horizontal feed, or do we want to allocate resources to vertical? It was really an either or. You couldn't have both. If you had both, it was the cheap and lazy will just, stick it out there and turn it on its side. But the problem is those audiences, especially in social, have such high pattern recognition for what they're used to seeing in their feed. And those audiences are smart, and they are scrolling so quickly. When something doesn't match that pattern, they either scroll right by it, or they assume it's an advertisement. It's not content that is made for them. So I think the game changer here has really been that we get to go to producers and say, you don't have to make that choice. This has opened up a world where you can have both. And instead of having to worry about some of the heavy lifting that was, like you said, it cost tens of thousands of dollars, it was out of reach for a large portion of broadcasters and production teams. Now they can take that effort and put it into the storytelling side. Our platform is a cloud graphics platform, and we want to, how can I create templates for you that can be easily versioned from 16:9 into 9:16. So you can choose at a click of a button to pull from the TikTok live comment feed for that audience, and to grab YouTube comments for this audience, and on linear on 16:9 to put out an incredibly data rich, graphic that is built for someone who's watching maybe on a bigger TV and sitting on a couch versus someone who's watching here and can only see smaller bites of information on their screen. So for us, I think that's the big unlock. Most of the conversations we have with partners are where they go, how do I make this content feel like it belongs where we're going to put it? And before, the answer was, well, you'll pick one and we'll make it belong there. And now you can actually pick multiple and make it belong in each of those places. So vertical is not an afterthought anymore. It's really a first class editorial piece that these teams are turning out.
Well said. So we heard today about how AI is changing a lot of what your teams and customers are thinking about when it comes to video. Now, looking ahead, what is one capability that you think will surprise the industry the most in the next 12 months? We'll start with you, Charlie.
Thank you. One capability with AI.
Yes.
I honestly couldn't give you an answer. I think it's, there's so many things we're excited about when it comes to AI. We've sort of talked about the vertical side. I personally have been being asked questions about that commercially from clients for the last 2 or 3 years. When is this coming? So it's taken 2 years to get to this point, but we're not losing any time. Let's put it that way. So going at speed, introducing this across all sorts of different spectrums. I think some of the things really in the last 6 months on top of this that we've seen that AI has really brought to the table, things like translated commentaries. We've got one of my colleagues, Josie, in the audience here. I didn't know that she spoke Spanish or German or other such languages, but with AI, it sounds like Josie, but it's like to a German speaker or a Spanish speaker, it's exactly sort of almost word for word perfect. So that ability to translate different languages and present that in a broadcast means that when it comes back to whether it's a 16:9 production or a 9:16 production, we can really tailor it to the audience, but from the same production serve different markets around the world in a way that it's really personalized to them. And that's not just the graphics that we're presenting in different languages. It's not just the commentary or the talent talking in different languages, but it's also understanding commercial opportunities. There might be different sponsors in different markets there. So the power to really use AI to scale up your kind of, let's say, rather slimline production operations, let's say, and make sure that you're serving so many different markets around the world in a really commercially relevant way. That's been hugely exciting. I think we'll see so many more changes in AI in the months to come.
Agree. What about you, Zav?
Thing is, it's recorded and it changes so fast that, I think for me, like one of the things that I really see coming, 12 to 18 months, is the capability of using AI for editing and sort of prompt to cut, type of things. I think the difficulty, that we've now surpassed was one, getting the right content, the right data, the right metadata all in a centralized, spot. And two, making sure that now I've got the clip location, I've got the 9:16 reframing, and I've got a good description of what's going on. Once you have that, the editing part is the easy last mile. And I think today we're like, okay, we're going to create a great repository of clips and then still rely on manual editing. I really think that that's going to change at such a rapid pace. And it's good because I think all three of us can feed the data into those models. And then once you've done that, what about deeper personalization? What about every time you open, your favorite fan app, of your league, you'll be greeted with a 90-second video of just what you enjoy. And that's because we've already got all the content to do that. And then it's just a matter of, okay, now every user in my database, I'm going to store the prompt of what's ideal for them. Every time they open the app, I do it on the fly. I serve it to them. So I think now we're really going to go deeper into personalization, and the barrier to entry of editing will be greatly lowered.
That's great. And last but not least, what are your thoughts, Christine?
I wish I could predict the future. If I look in my crystal ball, you're right. It's changing so quickly, but really similar to what you were saying, Xavier. I think that the deeper personalization is something that I'm particularly excited about, in those live moments, right? So I don't yet see a future where it's going to make the decisions for the humans, right? But producers, when you're sitting there live, you have to make so many real-time decisions, and to be able to have a better understanding in real time of how your audience is reacting to the content that's currently live will allow suggestions to allow producers to tailor based off audience behavior in real time. And that's something that I think is really interesting. And we've talked a lot about how do I allow my audience to feel like that content was produced for them. I think there's definitely going to be an interesting world in the future with AI where we can further that exponentially by allowing it to be, based off your audience behavior. How can we further personalize the content, like you were saying? And, I'd love to take it one step further. We can do it in a video. Could we also do it in live, to be able to make some of those live decisions and maybe not press the buttons for them just yet, but give producers the information and the data they need to make those decisions in real time. I think we've seen content change so much in the last 3 months, 6 months, year. So that's something I'm really excited about in the next year and a half.
That's great. Well, thank you everyone for joining me. Thank you, Christine, Charlie, and Xavier. And thank you all for joining us today. Just wanted to call out a couple of things. One, if you'd like to learn more about our partners or Elemental Inference, we are here also at the AWS West booth in West Hall in W1701. And we'll be hosting a networking event tonight at 5 p.m. here as well. So wanted to thank everyone, and hopefully we'll be able to get a video of this in a 9:16 as well.